You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. Well, our good friend is back with us, John Paul Mendocha. And hey, maybe you fall into this category. You made it through the pandemic with good health, maybe not such great economic health. Maybe you lost your job or your business closed, whatever, and you've been doing side hustles, gigs, doing what you can to make it. And now the pandemic's ending, normalcy, whatever that means, is being restored. So the question is, what's next? And John, you're great at helping people find direction. Your book, Most Businesses Fail in the First 5 Minutes, really a classic. And of course, your latest one, Remote Work, also going there as a classic. So what do you tell to the millennial or to the Gen Zer who is kind of undecided? You don't know what to do. You need direction. How can you help them, John?
Well, it's great to be back on your show and really appreciate it. The first thing I would say is that you have to clear out all of the nonsense, all of the noise, all of the ways that things aren't going to be working for you. And there's just a lot of drama that people have been kind of wrapped up in this thing, and whether they should do this or that, and all of that is chatter. It doesn't get you moving forward. You need to move forward. You need to put it behind you. You don't want to be this person who a year from now or 5 years from now or 10 years from now talks about how this drug you down. So and there's a tremendous potential when you can do that, when you can put that out of your mind and step forward and go out there and make yourself more successful. So that's the first thing. You got to stop the nonsense, the crazy in your head. As I've said to people from the beginning of this thing, we are going to know exactly what we should have done in 2043. We'll have all the data. We'll know all what we should have done. But does it matter? It doesn't matter. We just got to move forward. That's the only thing you can do is move forward or die, essentially.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can see a lot of what you're saying, but until you've walked a mile in their shoes, and look, we've been through these things before. You and I have been around a while, but for younger people, maybe you haven't been through this, and maybe there's really nothing you can do about it.
Well, the first thing you can do is resign your lifetime membership from what I call the Criers Club. And the Criers Club are just a bunch of people that or you've gotten to know, or you've gotten connected with. And instead of being the purpose of most masterminds, which is to help elevate everybody in the mastermind to a higher and better level, the Criers Club is everybody sitting there crying in their beer, their latte, their whatever about what's gone on. So I hear what you're saying, and you're going through it, and it's very valid that you have been, stomped on and kicked down and all of those things. But the longer you wallow, the less that you get things done. And what you have to do is say, okay, I'm going to strike out on a new direction, a new course. I have been there. I went through, why go through one bankruptcy when you can have two? Why have one lawsuit when you can have six simultaneously? And I did all of that in one fell swoop. Now, that doesn't make me, again, I don't want any sympathy, but I want to do is say, I learned some really important lessons. First and foremost is that you have to be clear about where you want to go direction-wise. And that's why you gotta quit the Criers Club, because I had a lot of people who said, John, you have every right to just feel poorly. Yeah, okay, I may have had that. Didn't want to waste any more time on it. Done. Move forward. Quit the Criers Club.
I couldn't agree with you more. So if I could just paraphrase what you said, stop crying in your soy latte.
Exactly. And just it's gotta and the longer you do it, by the way, the two things happen to you. First off, you become more irrelevant in the market, which you don't want to do. I mean, that's a really bad place to get to. And the second thing is that you start to lose all of those positive support and friends. And what you just have is you have this kind of downward spiral. And we don't want any of your listeners to do that. It's a bad place.
Definitely not. Definitely not. So you need to find a new direction in your life. How do you find it? What is the best way? What's worked for you? I mean, you had these extensive failures, if you will, in your life. You failed your way to success. How can others fail their way to success, John?
Couple things. First off is you need to kind of, if you want to get something akin to closure, I don't know if closure is the right expression, but what you want to do is you want to kind of examine what happened. How did you get into this thing? Write out what you think are the lessons. Write out or what you think are the bad things that happened to you, and take those two lists. The lessons learned you keep. The done you wrong list, you shred it, you burn it, you toss it away. And what you do is you have to say, I'm going to learn the lesson. And I think this is a key phrase. I want to learn the lessons and let the emotions go. Just got to let them go. Because I've met people literally who had a business that failed, God knows how many years ago. And you can't have a meeting with them without them bringing it up. And it's like, is this last week? No. It was, and it's like, it just absorbs you. So that's the first thing is to kind of call a halt to that. Now, new direction. Let's talk about new direction. New direction is, so what are the things that you are interested in? It's number one. But number two is, what are you capable of doing? That's number two. Number three, how do you position yourself to be able to take advantage of those first two things? How do you position yourself so you step into that? There are more opportunities today than there were any other time in history, because we have this explosion going on. And this explosion going on, now, we've had 2 years of stall and hiccups and speed bump. Okay, done. We are still if you step back and you don't look at it second by second, we're on the trajectory to bigger, better things. How do you put that in place?
All right. And so is there a systematic way of doing this, or do you just have to kind of wander around in the dark?
Well, I think, I don't think you have to wander around in the dark at all. I'm a big believer in lights. Big bright lights. So the first thing you want to ask yourself is, am I this person who is this kind of get rich quick mentality type of person? And if you are, then stay away from Vegas and stay away from some of this internet stuff. Okay. I mean, but if you're really committed to it, then I'll revert back to my Vegas days and give me a call, because we'll play a friendly game. But understand who you are and what you're looking for. That's how we turn on that first light. So self-awareness is really critical. The other thing is to say, if I'm going to live in this thing, whatever this market space is, whatever I'm going to be doing, make sure that you have this sense that you're going to like doing it. I've never met a single person, maybe you have, but I've never met a single person who said, I'm just going to do this for the money. And by doing it for the money, and I'm going to, no matter how painful I do it, and then I'm going to quit. If you don't have passion for what you're doing, it's going to have a hard time. So that, to me, the first light you flip on, self-awareness, understand where you're coming from money-wise. And the key element of this is now, how do you get engaged in doing this? If we have just a moment, I'll tell you, my version of that is I was not in a good, this is long before I went, belly up and all those things. But I really wanted to get out of the world I was in and pivot and get into technology.
You got your wish. You got your wish.
Yeah.
Not the way you wanted to exit, but maybe that was the cause of what led to, because maybe if you hadn't failed, you would have never gotten to where you are now.
Exactly. And so what you need to do is you need to say, okay, if I'm going to do this pivot, if I'm going to do that, I took whatever job I had to take at the time to get in the door. There are lots of secret doors, and I'll call it secret doors because they're sealed, they're shut. Markets are closed off. And how do I find a way to get inside? Because once you're inside, it's a lot easier to go and move along. And put up with whatever you have to put up with. There is nothing more humbling than going from making fabulous money to going out having to carry a bag again and go make money and put up with all the grief. No, nothing worse. But you know what? taught me a lot, taught me what I was going to do differently the next time around, taught me how to go out and recruit better people, taught me how to go out there and relate in another way. So whatever it takes to get into that market and be willing to do that. I see a lot of entitlement mindset of sitting around saying, you know what, I want to start at the top. I want to get all these things. And when people say that to me, I say, good luck, because what I'm going to find out is that in 3, 5, or 10 years, you are not going to be any further along than you are now, because you have committed the worst sin that you could, in my opinion, which is you became arrogant and said, the world owed me this spot. The world doesn't owe it to you.
You don't think it owes you? Well, there's a whole generation out there, 2 generations, who think that that they're entitled and no work is necessary. They don't have to pay. You don't have to pay your dues, and it'll just come to you because your mommy and your daddy always gave you a participation trophy for all the various sports, and you never had to work. So what do you say to that person, John, who's really got their head up their butt? Is there a way for them to get out of that mindset and figure out the way things really work?
Don't just survive, thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
Today's show is brought to you by Mustango River Resources. Their flagship projects are located in Kirkland Lake, an established gold camp that has historically produced over 70 million ounces of gold. The Kirkland West project is a high-grade gold project beside Kirkland Lake Gold's world-class Mikasa gold mine, one of the highest-grade mines in the world. Umeja project is an advanced stage project with 600,000 plus ounces of gold along the Cadillac Break, 25 kilometers east of Mikasa. Their projects have the potential to transform into another world-class mining camp in the Kirkland Lake District. Make sure you go over to Mustango.com. That's Mistango.com. Take a look and sign up for notifications. Stock is traded on the Canadian Stock Exchange, ticker symbol MIS. For more information and to sign up for notifications, go to Mustango.com.
This is the Financial Survival Network, the information you need to thrive now more than ever.
Well, yes. And here's how I would approach it. I'd say, listen, let's get to that fork in the road. One direction is going to be the 5, 10, or 20% of your generation who's going to go out there and do the hard work and pay their dues and do all of those things. And they will garner 80, 90% of the opportunity and wealth. And then and then the other, 80, 90% are going to go down the other road, and they're going to get by, and they're going to get by in a way that they find actually eventually demeaning, because here's what's going to happen. Competition is global today. Competition is, and we've said that for a while, but it really is. Now, I have people working for me all over this planet. So when you sit there and say, well, you need to hire me because, well, where are you going to get that talent? I find it all over the world. Now, that applies to me, applies to Carrie, applies to everybody. So how do you get your head out of your rear end? It's to understand you're not going to always have mommy and daddy around. You're not always going to have this giant safety net. Something may happen. And those who are really positioned themselves the right way will become much more successful. And that gap between the successful and the unsuccessful will be even more pronounced and enormous.
Hey, well, I just remember you said when you come to a fork in the road, you know what Yogi Berra used to say, when you come to a fork in the road, take it.
Exactly. Exactly.
You really have no choice is the point. So you better wake up, put on your big boy or big girl pants and go out there and do something, because nobody's giving you anything in the real world. It's amazing to me, though, how many people really don't seem to get it. I had an author on recently, and his book was something, swear word, I effing hate Chloe. Because to her, Chloe is to him rather, Jeremy, Chloe is the epitome of the self-indulgent, coddled Gen Z or millennial who doesn't understand that nobody owes you anything, and anything you're going to do, you got to do it on your own.
Well, absolutely, you have to be able to do it on your own, and you have to understand that that there's a lot of coddling, there's a lot of this that's going on. But okay, I'm gonna put that aside. Every generation has a whole group of people who don't become successful, and they have excuses. And maybe someday I need to write the book called Excuses and Alibis and Reasons Why I Really Suck. Because, and I mean, I'm talking about like me, I'm talking about somebody who's reading the book, because people have all kinds of excuses. I have in my turnaround experience fired more salespeople than most people have ever met. And I tell you, I have heard more stories. I look at them and say, now I've gathered those stories up and I'm trying to get a green light from Netflix or Amazon Prime, because these are works of fiction. Everybody has an excuse for why they're not doing whatever they're supposed to do. Now, this isn't new, except we have a new version of it. We have a new, capability. People will sit there and say, well, but things aren't going really well for me. Oh, but I have a new 5G phone. Oh yeah, and by the way, I'm watching all these streaming stuff. But what they're not doing is they're not investing in learning for themselves. And I see this on a regular basis. I work with people as clients, and I also have people work for me. And it's interesting because you need to stay on top of these things. So for all of you who are sitting there in the hammock, hoping that this thing is going to keep swinging back and forth, you haven't even seen a down market in so many years. You haven't even seen a real gully washer, as it's called, a real explosion out there. I mean, my father was running a machine shop, owned a machine shop when interest rates were at 21%, and that was prime. And, to go out there and get loans, I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, I remember it well. I remember Governor Weld of Massachusetts once said that the welfare should be a safety net and not a hammock. So, and that's the way your parents and your family should be too. I think there's a lot to be said here. Hey, if you were a young Turk starting out your life now, John, where do you think you would head?
Well, the first thing I would do is I'd look at areas like artificial intelligence. I don't think we've even gotten close to get that going. I would also look at ways to provide better customer experience, better customer service. I think that there's an opening there. I think I would grasp that the world of technology we're becoming more and more immersed into it. So I would want to continue to dive into high tech, because I think high tech has lots of room to grow. So those are some of those things. If you don't have an aptitude for that, and by the way, that's the other part. If you don't have an aptitude, here's what I tell people all the time who ask me, well, what should my kids go to school for? And I give them that. I said, well, you should learn like math. And they go, oh, well, Billy doesn't like math. Well, Billy, if you don't want to learn math, then why don't you learn how to turn a wrench and become a plumber or an electrician, because those people are making crazy money right now, and they're going to continue to make that, because here's what we know: those skill sets are going to be there. So I think that we're seeing an interesting shift. But yeah, I think high tech AI is an area that I'm very much interested in, and that becomes something it sounds pretty nebulous right now. But think about just a few years ago, if somebody would told you that you could go out there and do, AdWords and make money, or do Facebook advertising and make money, or do one of those things, and that becomes, a major something, they would look at you and they say that's nuts. But I think AI is an interesting area.
Hey, I'll tell you one thing. You don't want to go to college? Go learn how to fix EVs. Because there's a whole generation of mechanics, several generations, who are not going to learn how to do it and are going to become obsolete. And there is a shortage of these people now. And if you think that the number of cars going to go up tenfold, 100-fold over the next decade, and the number of people, even though they might be more reliable, they still got to be fixed. You can watch these guys on YouTube who are doing it, learn how to program them, learn how to fix the various components, all those things. Well, John, as always, an interesting discussion. So stop crying in your soy latte. Go out there and do something. Get off your butt John, we want to find out more about you, want to connect with you on the web. How do you do that?
Go to my website, positiontowinbook.com, positiontowinbook.com. There's a bunch of free stuff you can get. Also, you can get the books there. You can also find out some other things that I do. So if you want to get to know me better, that's a good way to do it. Also, I'm going to give everybody a little bonus if we got a second, which is if you see somebody on YouTube doing something that you find interesting, instead of sitting there trying to copy them, why don't you go work for them? Why don't you go talk to them? Why don't you go connect with them? Why don't you do something which I know is going to be very foreign to many people? Get physically in people's spaces, and you'll learn a lot in a very short period of time. Such
a great point. And hey, look, you don't necessarily get points for originality in life.
No.
So you're going to steal from the best. All right. Find the best example of what you want to be out there and take that person's stuff. But obviously, you can't just steal it. You got to add some value to it as well. That's not going to work. Hey, if you got a question for John, just shoot me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. Don't forget, go over to our site, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Sign up for your free newsletter. John, always a pleasure. Thanks for stopping by.
Gary, thanks for having me. It's always a good, lively discussion. So look forward to seeing you in the future.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.